Good evening. My name is Jay Carpenter. I am founder of Desert Blockchain, and tonight is Wednesday, March the 23rd, 2022. It is 7 p.m. Arizona time, and our topic tonight, as advertised, was advanced NFT use cases with Jaycen Horton of Nori.com, and unfortunately, Jaycen has an emergency this evening that he has to attend to and will not be joining us in all likelihood. There's a chance, but we'll probably reschedule Jaycen because if you're not familiar with his work, it's gotten a lot of notoriety in terms of being named one of the top 12 innovations to watch in 2022 by the IEEE, the top engineering society in the world. And it was also, his innovation was also used in a recent auction by Julian Lennon of Beatles memorabilia to offset the estimated carbon emission associated with the NFTs that were associated with the Beatles memorabilia. So that happened on February the 7th. So I apologize for the change. Instead, we're going to talk about a couple things. Number one is a non-fungible token related project that we've launched or we're about to launch here in the Desert Blockchain ecosystem. It's sort of a sub-project of Desert Blockchain. It's called Peacecamps.com, and we're going to be doing some NFT related items where we're experimenting in multiple dimensions with this, and it's related to the conflict in the Ukraine. And so I'll be doing a little presentation on that, and if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat on the YouTube live stream. And then we will have Charles Brandt doing a presentation on the current procedures in the United States Congress regarding exploring cryptocurrencies and possible ways for those new innovations to be handled from the regulatory side. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. And okay, the NFTs that we're talking about with the Peacecamps is on the Stellar chain using Lightmint, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. And if you're not familiar with Stellar, I highly recommend you take a look at it. It's really cool. But we'll definitely be talking about some of the elements of Stellar and some of the new dimensions we're exploring with this innovation. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And let me just go ahead and launch into it. And we'll talk about peacecamps.com. I'm going to share my screen and go into the presentation. So bear with me just a moment. And there we go. Okay, so this is the introduction to Peacecamps. And the idea is that this is an opportunity to explore inviting people from, well, that are of Russian as well as Ukrainian descent that are impacted by this conflict that's going on in the Ukraine, to create artistic expressions of peace. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that here in a moment. And those artistic expressions of peace are meant to be illustrating some of the human impact that's going on over there from both sides. There will be a monetary component to this, where the non-fungible tokens that are created from the artistic expressions of peace will be put up for auction, and I'm going to show you the Lightmint platform where those auctions will be taking place. And we're also exploring some dimensions that we can bake into this that might encourage conflict resolution, have some incentives in that. And we will also be exploring a way to possibly start or at least prime the pump for rebuilding when that time comes. So here's kind of the overall context of, what we're trying to have a breakthrough around. When we get into a conflict situation like this, people often become reduced to objects. So here's on the left an image of the Russian soldiers, and you can see, like most soldiers, they're all very uniform. You can barely, in fact, you really can't distinguish one soldier from another. And on the right, you have the Ukrainian force as well, also marching in step, and everything is nice and neat and tidy. And basically, one soldier is pretty much indistinguishable from another. And the point of this is that our default way to relate to a conflict like this is to kind of turn people into objects. And that has some dimensions that I think can be addressed through these artistic expressions of peace. And in reality, the next slide highlights that these soldiers are related to other people. In this case, here's a memorial for a soldier that was killed in combat. His mother's bent over him. His father cannot stand to be with what's before him. And you have the clergy. You're likely to have some of the soldier and this family's community also taking part in this memorial. And that's part of the opportunity set around these artistic expressions of peace, is to highlight that people on both sides of this conflict are suffering loss in their families, in their relationships. And these items that we're encouraging people to create are intended to be a way to express that. So here's another example. This is a recording, and I'm not going to play the recording, but you're welcome to look it up. But this is a recording of a Russian mother who's dialing into a Ukrainian service that theoretically can give some sort of update on the Russian mother's Russian soldier's son. And if you listen to this, you will hear the angst, the sorrow, the terror in this woman's voice. So there's loss, there's upset, there's impact, there's fear, there's tremendous emotions going on both sides of this conflict. And we're not taking sides on either. This Peacecamps.com is intended to be Swiss neutral. It's intended to be an expression of peace. So that's basically what we're inviting the respective communities to express here. And so I am watching the chat comments. So here's the funding mechanism. Basically, creating an auction of Peacecamps NFTs on the Stellar network using Lightmint. And basically, some of the funds, the distributions, part of the funds will go to the creator of the artistic piece expression. And these are tradable, so there will be, in all likelihood, a current owner as these trade in the marketplace. We're also exploring having a rebuild funding portion of the proceeds from the auction, or possibly a combination of humanitarian aid. And I'll show an example of that in a minute. There will be a curator element that's designed to do multiple functions, but this person will act as a stamp of authenticity on the art and whatever the non-fungible token is representing. And then there will be a portion for administrative services to peacecamps.com. So we're working out the terms in terms of submission criteria, authentication, and we have come to the conclusion that at this point it's best to have the curator represent the identity of the creator in this, at least for the time being. So an interesting part about using Stellar is that the Ukrainian government has already been working with Stellar in order to use the Stellar constructs in the platform to build their national digital currency, or their central bank digital currency is another term for it. So here's an article about that. But if you're not familiar with Stellar, one of the incredibly powerful parts about Stellar is the ability to trade and swap and have a built-in exchange from currency to currency, and to have on and off ramps using the traditional banking systems around the world. So I highly recommend you take a look at Stellar and explore it if you haven't done so already. Then this is simply an article, recent article about non-fungible tokens, what they are, what they do. And this project is also an attempt to explore how can non-fungible tokens be put to use in something that's maybe has a bit more substance to it than the artistic memes and things like that that they've been representing during the last year or so. So this is the platform that we're using to create the tokens. It's called Lightmint, and I'll show you a little bit more about that, but this is actually a video presentation on how Lightmint works and can step you through creating your own non-fungible token. If you haven't done so, I'd recommend you try that. If not on the Stellar and the Lightmint platform, try it where there's another opportunity on, related to Ethereum or what have you. But it's really powerful in my view, and we're just at the very beginning stages of uncovering how this particular type of token and representation can be put to use. So this is the Lightmint page, where there's this was the very first non-fungible token that was minted related to this initiative, and this is simply the logo of Peacecamps.com and what you saw at the beginning of the presentation. But I'll actually go to this site in a moment. And this is a little bit about me. And we've got some additional material in the back. This is the front page of the Wall Street Journal, where that image of the soldier's funeral came from. This is a video that, in my view, is one of the most powerful examples of forgiveness and a desire for peace that I've ever seen by the father of this girl, Christina Green, who was one of the victims in the shooting tragedy of Gabrielle Giffords down in Tucson. I think it's been about 11 years ago or so. Anyway, this is also a valuable video in my view, which talks about how there could be a different approach to fundraising in the charitable realm. And there are some very powerful points that are made in this particular video that we'll also be exploring as well. So this is some introductory material on Stellar. And again, it is, in my view, a very elegant and efficient way to achieve digital currency moving all over the globe, to the unbanked, to pretty much people anywhere, anytime, under any circumstances. And so I recommend you take a look at this. I'll tell you what my hesitation around Stellar was for a long time, until I recently started to do a deep dive into it, was that I wasn't sure about the consensus algorithm, which was created by Professor David Meyer of Stanford University, and I'll show you his picture in a moment. But my hesitation around Stellar was it looked like it was centralized more than decentralized. After studying the consensus algorithm, I am more confident that Professor Mazeros actually has created something that is powerful, that's more efficient than most of the consensus algorithms that are out there. And I think this platform has an opportunity to really be scaled around the globe. So here's a little bit more about Stellar Payment Network and some of the people involved. Let's take a look at some of the people involved. Jed McCaleb Jed McCaleb has an impressive background in cryptocurrency and the decentralized blockchain space, and as well as his academic credentials are very impressive as well. So you should take a look at that. I believe his net worth is somewhere between 3 billion and 20 billion. David Meyer, I'm sure, has a very high net worth as well, but he has an extremely impressive background, academic background. He's on the faculty at Stanford, and he's come up with some very innovative decentralized peer-to-peer constructs, including this quorum slicing algorithm for reaching consensus on Stellar. So Danielle Dixon has also an impressive background, a degree in law from Hastings College and University of California. She was with Mozilla, and she actually recently testified to Congress about Stellar as well as cryptocurrencies and the phenomenon that is taking place that we're all very much interested in. And again, Charles Brandt will be doing an update, a presentation after this on some of the proceedings in Congress, which I think are really, really important, particularly in light of the Ukrainian situation, where there are these sanctions that are being put into place, and there's many of the governments around the world are wondering, what is the role that cryptocurrency plays in the sanctions? And is it possible for cryptocurrency and the decentralized constructs to defeat, or to some degree, defeat the sanctions? So this is an interview with Jed McCaleb from a few years back, and I highly recommend you listen to this. It's got some very interesting history of the whole cryptocurrency and blockchain space, including Mt. Gox. And it also talks a little bit about Professor Mezeros's the process he went through to create the quorum slicing consensus algorithm that is at the core of and the foundation of Stellar. So this is an interesting article on curators and how they play a major role in art NFTs, and we're certainly going to be pioneering some ground in the curator model, taking an active role, not only in authenticating the art and the non-fungible tokens, but also in terms of acting as a privacy shield for the creators. So this is a part that I'm really excited about and looking forward to. So these are more or less just some notes. This is a session that we did on one of our Saturday sessions, which is somewhat of a overlaps this particular talk, but you can take a look at this. And we got into some conversations that I think are valuable as well with some of the participants at our Desert Blockchain Camp, which might very well morph into Peacecamps. So that's about it. I will stop the screen share and open it up for any questions, any comments in the chat on the live stream. Charlie, anything you want to add or say regarding?
No, I just think it's an amazing concept, and the way that technology can be applied to really go beyond kind of the digits and start to tell a narrative of the actual people that are behind it. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to talking about in a second is really how that story is being told to some of the representatives that are kind of leading the charge and finding the best way to regulate, or in some cases keep areas unregulated, to make sure that these technologies kind of continue to flourish. It's amazing the stories you can tell.
Cool. Charlie, you mind introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your background, how you got involved and interested in the blockchain space, what you're doing currently with your studies and the course you're taking, and how this came about, you focusing on the congressional processes and hearings that are happening around, the executive order associated with cryptocurrencies and blockchains and decentralized constructs.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. Well, I had originally heard about Bitcoin, just like everybody did, about 10 years ago, and didn't buy it. But many years later, I actually started looking at it as an alternative investment. But right away, I noticed, there was just something different about it than I come at it from an IT director background. So I've been in IT for 20 years in a professional level. And when I kind of saw the blockchain technology, that's when I started to really realize, this wasn't going away. That became evident very, very quickly. And at that point, it became clear that this was going to change not only the shape of technology, but also finance and economics and kind of the way that plays out on an international level. And when you start to see that, the natural question becomes, how is this going to be regulated? I'm not a lawyer. Like I said, I come at it from an IT professional background, but I really started asking myself kind of some of those larger questions. And to get to the bottom of those, I started studying quite concentrated on fintech, blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs, these kinds of things. And that led me into the blockchain application certificate program at Duke University, which I'm currently going through now. And it's just amazing what these technologies can do. And as somebody who's worked in education and also marketing and technology and studies finance and economics, these were all kind of disparate fields. Cybersecurity, I took some training at a Harvard certificate program there. These were all kind of islands that operated out there, and with this technology, we've really seen them all kind of come together and start interacting in ways that we just haven't seen since the creation of the World Wide Web. This is just the beginning. That is very clear, and I think it's really important that we work to educate our representatives so that they're making decisions that are not stifling innovation and creation, and allowing projects like Peacecamps to actually get off the ground and make a real impact in people's lives.
All right, go ahead. That's great. So go ahead, and you've got a presentation for us, correct, Charlie?
Yes.
Awesome.
So I attended the virtually. I'm not on the Senate. The Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, and kind of wanted to give a session recap. There's also a link at the end of the presentation to the Future of Money conference that happened in January of this year. I highly recommend looking at that as well. In that, both conferences really we're looking at the role of digital assets from a regulatory perspective. The Senate Committee, in this case, was focused specifically on digital assets in their use in illicit finance, and with the invasion happening in Ukraine currently, it was absolutely the major point of topic of conversation at this meeting. So a little bit of background about me. Again, I am not an investment or legal professional, so you're gonna have to seek that advice elsewhere. But as mentioned, I mean, really this committee focused on two key questions. Was how has crypto allowed people from around the world to kind of give their support to Ukraine? And that kind of touches on a lot of what you mentioned, Jay, earlier. And I think that kind of dovetails with that conversation nicely. And we'll dive into that in a second. And then also, does crypto allow malicious actors to skirt sanctions that are being established to kind of control the flow of finance and capital into the region? So at this session, Jonathan Levin, the co-founder and CSO of Chainalysis, provided testimony, as did Michael Moser, who is a former acting director, deputy director of FinCEN, and anybody that kind of studies financial crimes and the current state of regulation for crypto. It's a very big name, and it's providing a lot of insight to our congressional leaders to kind of inform their decisions. And then Michael Chabanian of Kuna Exchange, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, and also president of the Blockchain Association of Ukraine, and also Shane Stansberry, who is out of Duke's Law School currently, but he has a long history of working in kind of financial crimes and going through the process of really closing cases within that realm. So a lot of different perspectives. I don't have a complete list here, but on the link provided, you can certainly look it up for kind of who was in attendance. Member statements were made by Chairman Brown, and then Senator Toomey. And then a lot of questions came in from a number of additional senators, some remote, some on site, but most notably in the session, Senator Warren, Senator Sinema, Senator Brown, Senator Smith from my own state, and Senator Haggerty. So we kind of all over the country, everybody's talking about this. But Jay, kind of getting into what you mentioned about, it's sometimes easy when you start looking at maps of troop movement, or in times of crisis, to reduce things to numbers and statistics. I think, the committee members were able to hear something much more personal than just the inner workings of blockchain. And they heard plenty of that as well. But Mr. Chibonian, founder of Kuna Exchange, really brought a number of things to light that went beyond just the technology. So kind of breaking down some of his key points, crypto has an extremely fast clearing time, one that's just not seen in traditional banking. Even when kind of you pull out all the stops, even for especially for international transfers, you're just not going to get money in the hands of people. And I use money very, we have to kind of redefine what that means when we're talking about crypto and blockchain cryptocurrencies. So, but it's one of the preferred payments for donations for that reason. There's no banks necessary. It can allow peer-to-peer transactions across borders with no stops. Over $100 million was raised through donations, going through exchanges like Kuna. Right? So quick access to funds for supplies and distribution. One of the things that was interesting that Mr. Chibonian mentioned was that Ukraine already had a very high adoption rate for crypto in the country. And Jay, you kind of alluded to some of this as well with their interest in creating more of a CBDC or a countrywide digital currency, whether it's through an established blockchain like Stellar. I'm not as familiar with that effort, but it definitely was evident from the way funds were being transferred during this crisis that they already had high adoption rates for crypto wallets. So one of the things that Mr. Chibonian mentioned too was it's not just the wallets in Ukraine that we're talking about here. So with sanctions, regard to sanctions, it has to do also with the wallets in Russia that are both on the sanction list as well as ones that are not. So yeah, it was mentioned a number of times that there's many people within Russia that are not pro-Putin that can actually have access to funds that they otherwise wouldn't by not being included on that sanction list. And it's a very important question that regulators are going to have to ask themselves, and it really will kind of shape the future of how we look at what does a sanction look like with the blockchain-based cryptocurrency. A couple of quotes here, going back to bringing it away from just technical to really a story in real life. Mr. Chibonian said, Web 3.0, it's going to change the world. It will be the technology that we're going to use to rebuild my country, namely the blockchain, because it shows the transparency of everything. They used the money that was raised through donations for helmets, bulletproof vests, medical supplies, blood clotting agents, medicine, distributions to cities for food, and peer-to-peer wallet distributions. He said it was life-saving, impossible to do with the regular banking system. So, it's one thing to talk about these things in the abstract. It's another to hear directly from the lives of the people that it's affecting. And it's an important thing to consider when you're making regulations that are going to affect generations of people, as the proceedings in the Senate committee and those like it will certainly have. Mr. Jonathan Levin, co-founder and chief strategy officer of Chainalysis, also discussed at length some of the concerns that were raised by Senate committee members. And a lot of this was echoed by Michael Mosier. I could have a whole slide for him, but they really did talk in tandem on a lot of these issues. So for example, blockchain immutability has already allowed investigators to close some fairly large cases internationally. And one of the examples that was given was the Colonial Pipeline hack. Though not all the money was recovered, a very substantial portion was. I want to say 86%, but I could be wrong on that. And they have the ability to kind of monitor remaining money that hasn't moved on those wallets. So one of the other things that the committee really kind of dissected was the difference between identifying wallets where funds are kind of being held in custody and identifying wallet owners. So whereas we're not necessarily able to identify all threat actors that may be kind of involved in a situation, monitoring those funds can be in most cases, in many cases. Identifying large transactions is quite easy. So one of the main concerns that was brought up was crypto being sent to both pro-Putin funds that were held in crypto wallets, and then also kind of offshoot smaller actors, oligarchs, these kinds of things within the country. And going back to the conversation we just had, even if funds were transferred, they would be very visible on the immutable blockchain. They could be seen and identified in many cases. And if nothing else, the information is always available for kind of post processing later. Given that the blockchain is kind of crystallized for legal entities down the road, they can go back and do their investigations. The concept of wallets and funds being able to hop to different chains, chain hopping, and anonymous mixing services, privacy coins, coin joins, these kinds of things was brought up. And one of the things that Mr. Levin did was to really break down. That's one of the core components that his company kind of offers as a service, is to work with legal entities to find and track wallet funds across blockchains. And that's kind of, it was one of the main things that was brought up again and again by Senator Sinema and Warren. And I think Mr. Levin did a very good job at kind of bringing his professional experience into the Senate committee and just assuring them that yes, there are absolutely ways to track these transactions. Shane Stansberry also discussed at length.
Charlie,
yes.
Yeah, I would like to make emphasize the last point that cash is not traceable, and
yes,
it actually is traceable to some degree, but it's certainly what we're talking about in terms of digital currencies and digital values. When there is a transparent blockchain, I think has a much higher degree of traceability than what we've had for forever with cash. So
it's a very good point. I mean, some of the kind of longstanding examples of that outside of even cash would be, something like conflict diamonds, hard assets, precious metals, gold. It's a lot harder to move internationally in some examples, but to your point, when a piece of currency is leaving your pocket in the form of a bill, tracking that is near impossible. And I think all parties involved really did acknowledge that fact. And there's a timely element to that, even if you could, one that doesn't exist necessarily on the blockchain, in that these things can be tracked ad infinitum because they're just always there, right?
Well, a lot of people use cryptocurrency as sort of a whipping boy for illegal criminal activity and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. And I just think that point that when you compare it to cash, there's a much clearer audit trail than certainly cash. So
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Mr. Chabanian, Mr. Levin would absolutely agree with that statement. I do as well, and I certainly think that there's plenty of information to back up that point. I mean, cash or excuse me, crypto did not exist, through the drug cartels of the 1970s, 80s, and they were still operating. So really, at what point, what are we talking about there? You could have that conversation, to be sure. Shane Stansberry did acknowledge that yes, indeed, despite some of the counterpoints, that crypto is indeed used as the primary method for payment for hackers, cyber threat actors, in regards to something like ransomware, right? Locked files, they want to get paid quickly. It's not easy to transfer large amounts of non-crypto that fast, or cross borders where a lot of these threat actors reside. They're not necessarily over specialized. However, they're using existing hacker kits that can be kind of bought almost as a business. So there is a point there, and I think Mr. Stansberry was acknowledging that in full in light of the committee's questions. And he did acknowledge that yes, indeed, the blockchain is immutable. There is a record. However, it does take a lot of time and resources to track down malicious actors. So again, it comes down to priority. And I think Mr. Levin acknowledges as well, it's about focusing your efforts on the larger transactions and some of the known wallets, sanction lists, and really defining kind of what you're looking for. But I think Mr. Stansberry did acknowledge that fact that yes, it does indeed take resources to track down malicious actors. It's why Chainalysis does get paid, and there's a business model there. Senator Sinema did join remotely from her offices in Arizona. She did understand common methods of obfuscation used by illicit finance. We mentioned these a little bit before: chain hopping, mixing services, i.e., privacy coins, coin joins, these kinds of things. However, she mentioned that she had actually been briefed in previous meetings by Chainalysis. It seemed that I believe I spelled that wrong. I'll fix that slide. That she had definitely put some time in to understand, yes, the risks involved, but she also prompted Mr. Chabanian to give his account of kind of how blockchain and crypto had really been helpful to the country of Ukraine during this time. So, you come away from that, especially in the state of Arizona, that is kind of reaching now in Maricopa County and beyond to, potentially set itself up as a hotspot for innovation, drawing people in, allowing companies to kind of build on that foundation. It's important to know where the leaders of that state are standing. And I can say that from hearing Senator Sinema talk, that she has clearly spent a large amount of time coming to understand the technology that's out there and available to some of the most innovative members of her state and the larger country as a whole. On the opposite end of that spectrum, Senator Warren was very critical of some of the issues that were brought up, despite some of the answers provided by Mr. Levin and Mr. Chobanian, and used the Senate committee as kind of a informal way of introducing her new Digital Assets Sanction Compliance Enhancement Act. I provided a link at the end of this. Now, again, I understand that there are certain things that need to be taken into consideration, but she's definitely interested in kind of leaning more towards that compliance standpoint than it seemed like many of the other members of the committee were. She had mentioned previous cases to Mr. Levin where crypto was used to skirt sanctions, including North Korea and Iran. So Jay, I don't know if I'm be making this presentation available, but a couple things. The Future Money Governance and Law Conference that occurred in January, definitely worth looking into. They have a full recording on YouTube that's archived. Even if you kind of pop around on that, it was really an interesting example of conversations kind of coming together from all different parts of the landscape, be it regulatory, kind of from the nonprofit sector, from the private sector. I want to say that members of the Fed, Federal Reserve, state banks as well, were either in attendance or following very closely with regards to considerations that should be taken into account when creating potential CBDCs or central bank digital currencies in the future. So it's important to follow these conversations, in my opinion, because they're really shaping ultimately the regulations that we're going to all have to abide by. And it's important that these voices from people on the ground are really being included. I'm hoping to see many more of these subcommittee meetings meeting on the same topic. It seemed like there was a lot of interest in doing so and really wanting to make some informed decisions to not limit the amount of innovation that can actually be occurring in the space. I think states, this has been exemplified in the headlines recently with Wyoming wanting to stand out by offering, whether it's regulatory sandboxes to blockchain developers or fintech companies coming up to give their state a chance to grow in an amazing way. So. And then there's just a few other links here. And again, the last one on the list here, this advanced obfuscation techniques. If you really want to get into the weeds on some of the methods that illicit finance are looking at to kind of, potentially skirt regulations, and the senators brought this up, sanctions. It would be a good start to kind of learning more about that.
All right, Charlie, thank you. I'm going to go back to screen share, and I don't see any questions in the chat currently, but let me screen share in another area and talk about a few dimensions of this. Before I get into that, this is an event that we're having this Saturday at Desert Blockchain Camp on 27th and Georgia. This will be a continuation of what we started last weekend, where we're inviting folks that are impacted by the conflict to come to camp, create an artistic expression of peace, which we can create into a non-fungible token. And also we're going to be setting up wallets and also interacting with folks that will serve as curators in multiple dimensions. So you can find this on Meetup. This is a brand new Meetup that I've started to kind of separate out the activities of the Peacecamps items. And then the other item to show you, this is the website. The website's basically a template at this point. It's under construction, but we will be building out this website, peacecamps.com. And the, let's see, I want to stop the screen share and go to a different screen. Bear with me. So let's go back to this one. I'll show you a couple other things. So this is the front page of Lightmint, where you can create an account. You can start to mint your own non-fungible tokens. You know, most of this is art and so forth, but there are some very creative things that are going on with the non-fungible tokens, where people are creating 3D metaverse rooms, and you can definitely put audio, video, all sorts of digital media in, can be represented by these non-fungible tokens. So I highly recommend you take a look at it. The other nice thing about Stellar is the transaction fees are very low. It's very fast, it's very efficient, and they will be introducing smart contracts native to the chain and the protocol, is my understanding, here in the fairly near future, and that could add some increased functionality to this entire ecosystem. And then in terms of what we're experimenting with, this is the Peacecamps NFTs homepage, and I just wanted to show you a couple of now these will not be auctioned due to some considerations that we discovered after they were created, but this was, let's see if we can open this up. Yeah, hopefully it'll come up and we can take a look. But I think it's pretty cool artwork, and it is definitely an expression highlighting the possibility of peace. And this one was created by a woman who is from Russia, but living here in Arizona and the US. So yeah, hopefully this will come up. And this basically gave us something to get our arms around and kind of see how this would work. The expressions can be, you know, don't have to be collages, but this is an example of the artwork. This is actually a cluster of ants, and when ants are in danger, apparently they come together and start to cooperate as a collaborative community. And then she's representing, you know, us human beings, which theoretically have a higher degree of development and intelligence and so forth than the ants. But I think her point is that, you know, this advantage of collaboration, of coming together during a time of crisis, spans the spectrum of life from ants to humans. She's talking about freedom, and actually one of the curators is talking about creating some audio to go with the art that gives the artist's viewpoint on, you know, what the experience was, what some of the meaning is, what some of the emotions are associated with this art. So the other NFT, and we're running a little short of time, but you can go to this page and take a look. I don't want to slight the other artist because it's pretty cool, but my computer's running slow, so I am not going to show the second NFT that was created. What I would like to do is go back to this set of images. And, you know, we're talking about what good can this crypto stuff do besides skirting sanctions and you know, supporting nefarious activity like ransomware and blah, blah, blah. Well, here's something that I came across during this exploration. This is something called World Central Kitchen, and it's a charity that's designed to be very nimble, very fast, and set up basically food kitchens on the fly, like almost immediately after some sort of humanitarian crisis occurs. Could be natural disasters, earthquakes, and so forth. That's the chef that's holding up the skillet there, who this was his idea, his passion. And I was really, really inspired by this. I didn't know about it, but I highly recommend you take a look at it. And I'm intending to see if we can incorporate this particular humanitarian effort into the peacecamps.com. But what I wanted to show you is over here, ways to give. Look at that. You can donate crypto to this. And yeah, I mean, you can go PayPal and other ways to give, but let's take a look at the crypto capabilities. So you can, if you click on the donate crypto, you can see, if my computer will catch up, how to donate crypto and some of the various coins that they take. But, you know, imagine that you want to basically feed somebody who's probably going through one of their worst experiences of their lives. They're hungry. The last thing they need is any kind of friction in terms of, you know, getting resources to from your wallet to their you know, their consumption basically. So you can see they take Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you hit this continue, I was rather impressed with let's see, and I wanted to show you all the various cryptocurrencies that they let's see, where is it? Anyway, I won't bore you, we're running out of time here, but you can take a look at the types of crypto. I was amazed. They've got about 30 or 40 different types of crypto there. So anyway, no matter what, check out this worthy cause and support it. I think it's really phenomenal. So that's about it for our time tonight. Charlie, any last comments that you'd not like to make? I see a nice comment in the chat, but anything you'd like to say?
No, I just think it's a great project, that Peacecamps. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that progresses. And you're absolutely right. The last thing people donating or receiving donations need to think about, especially in crisis, is kind of friction of use. And I can't think of a better way to show the world how cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology can be used to solve real problems for real people, and in such a great way.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, thank you for your time and attention watching this tonight, and hopefully it won't be too long before we can reschedule with Jaycen Horton of Nori.com, doing carbon sequestration through non-fungible tokens. Very cool use case. And you know, sign up. It's free on Meetup for Peacecamps, and you can follow along. That'll be the distribution list. On the second Saturday of each month, we have an open house at Desert Blockchain Camps, which you see an image behind me of that space. And then on the fourth Wednesday of April, we'll have another monthly session like this. So thank you for your time, your attention. And we appreciate your support. If you're a Desert Blockchain citizen on Patreon for $10 a month, We are community supported, and we generally don't take sponsorships, and we want to stay as Swiss neutral as possible. So thank you very much, and have a good evening. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
That's a
Jed.
really cool presentation, and look forward to seeing you in the future. All right.
All right. Have a nice day, everyone.